4.8 million years ago, the world was not quiet. It breathed, roared, and trembled with danger. Dawn was not just the start of a new day, it was a test. A storm of dust rolled across the savannah as towering shadows moved between trees, searching, hunting. Every sound mattered. A crack of a twig could mean survival, or death. Our ancestors, early hominids, fragile yet fearless, walked this unforgiving land with nothing but their instincts and each other. They were not the strongest creatures here, not the fastest, not the fiercest, but every step they took, every struggle they endured, shaped the destiny of humanity. The Earth, 4.8 million years ago, was a world untamed by civilization. Vast stretches of savanna spread across what is now Eastern Africa. Rolling grasslands mixed with patches of dense woodland and scattered rivers that cut through the landscape like ancient veins. The air was heavy with the scent of dry grass and wet mud. Thunderclouds often gathered without warning, sweeping across the land with violent rains that transformed dry plains into treacherous swamps within hours. And when the storms cleared, the heat returned, scorching, relentless, almost unbearable. This world did not care who lived or died. It simply existed. For early hominids, the environment was both a provider and a punisher. The same rivers that offered water also attracted predators. The same tall grass that hid fruits and insects also concealed hungry beasts. The wind itself carried messages. The musk of a nearby pack, the stench of a decaying carcass, the shifting patterns of an approaching storm. This was an era before dominance, a time when humans were prey far more often than they were hunters. Early hominids were small, ape-like, walking on two legs but still climbing trees for safety. Their senses were sharp. Their nights were restless. Their world was a battlefield of survival where every decision mattered. Danger was not a possibility. It was a certainty. Yet this harsh landscape was also the cradle of humanity, shaping minds, strengthening bodies, and cultivating the earliest whispers of strategy, cooperation, and intelligence. In the chaos of nature's cruelty, something extraordinary was forming. The foundation for the species we would one day become. Before humans dominated the food chain, they survived on the margins. Early hominid were opportunistic scavengers and gatherers, moving in small groups across the plains in search of edible roots, berries, insects, and occasionally the remains of a predator's kill. The gathering of food was a delicate dance with danger. Wide, open spaces made them vulnerable. Every fruit-bearing tree could attract more than just hungry hominids. It could attract baboon troops, giant herbivores, or stalking predators waiting in the shadows. Hunting was even more perilous. These early ancestors did not possess the speed of a cheetah, the strength of a lion, or the claws of a bear. Their greatest tools were vigilance and teamwork. A hunt typically began with silence. No shouting, no sudden movements. A group of early hominids would creep toward a small animal, a rodent, a lizard, perhaps a young antelope left behind. Their weapons were primitive, sticks, stones, sharpened bones. But their greatest advantage was patience. Sometimes they failed. Often they returned empty-handed. But when they succeeded, the victory was shared. Every scrap of meat, every piece of marrow cracked from bone, was consumed as if it were treasure. Yet gathering and hunting were never just about food. They were lessons in unity, lessons in instinct, lessons in observation. Early hominids learned to track footprints. They learned to read the movement of birds. They learned the patterns of predators. Survival depended on knowing what the world was saying, even when it spoke in silence. Every day was a race between hunger and danger, and no creature waited for them to catch up. To live in this world was to live among giants. The predators of 4.8 million years ago were nothing short of monstrous. Saber-toothed cats prowled the shadows with dagger-like teeth that could pierce bone. Giant hyenas roamed in packs, powerful enough to tear apart anything they caught. Crocodiles twice the size of modern ones lurked in every river, their jaws snapping shut with terrifying precision. But the greatest threat did not always rule. Sometimes it stalked silently, like the prehistoric leopard, an agile climber capable of dragging a full-grown hominid up a tree with ease. Every journey to a watering hole was a gamble against death. Every movement in the grass was a potential ambush. Early hominids were not natural fighters. When threatened, they relied on tactics, grouping together, shouting, waving sticks, throwing stones. These actions rarely killed a predator, but they often created just enough confusion to escape. And escape was enough. But not always. Entire groups could be wiped out in a single night. A young hominid wandering too far could vanish without a sound. The bones left behind told brutal stories. Puncture marks from fangs, deep claw gashes, skulls crushed by enormous jaws. Yet these battles forged something powerful in our ancestors. A heightened awareness, a deeper sense of cooperation, a growing understanding that survival was not an individual mission, but a collective one. The beasts rule the land, but the hominids were learning, watching, adapting. And adaptability would eventually rewrite the balance of power. Fire changed everything. Although early hominids of 4.8 million years ago did not yet create fire, they had begun to understand it. They approached lightning-struck trees with caution, gathering their smoldering log for warmth, protection, and curiosity. Fire offered something no predator could match. Light in the darkness. Night had always belonged to the hunters, the lions, hyenas, and leopards whose eyes glowed like ghosts in the tall grass. But fire pushed back the night, creating a circle of safety where none had existed before. It warmed their bodies, allowing them to survive colder climates. It hardened wooden spears, making hunting slightly more effective. It cooked food, though this discovery would come later, making nutrients easier to digest and freeing energy for brain development. But beyond the practical advantages, fire ignited something psychological. It created a center, a place to gather, communicate, and build early forms of social bonding. Around these flames, the first sparks of culture began. Simple vocalizations, shared experiences, the passing down of information, all of it strengthened through the glow of fire. Predators feared it. Storms extinguished it. Early hominids revered it. Fire was not just a tool. It was a promise. A promise that someday humans would no longer merely survive the world, but shape it. In a world where danger lurked behind every tree, unity was not optional, it was essential. Early hominid groups were small, typically ranging from 10 to 20 individuals. Each member played a role in the tribe's survival. The strong protected the weak. The experienced taught the young. The mothers carried their infants close, guarding them from the ever-present threats. Social bonds were not just emotional, they were strategic. A lone hominid was vulnerable. A group was a force. Through gestures, vocal calls, and simple facial expressions, hominids developed systems of communication that allowed them to warn each other of danger, coordinate during hunts, and comfort one another during moments of fear. These early interactions laid the foundation for something profound, the rise of empathy and shared responsibility. They mourned their dead. They protected their injured. They shared food even when supplies were scarce. Within the tribe, trust was everything. Because trust meant survival. But unity came with challenges. Conflicts over food, dominance, and mating were common, sometimes resulting in splits where smaller groups broke away to form new tribes. These shifts had significant consequences. New territories, new dangers, new beginnings. Yet one truth remained constant. No one survived alone. Survival required innovation. Although the earliest known stone tools appear slightly later in history, the foundations of tool use were already forming 4.8 million years ago. Early hominids used sticks to dig for roots and insects. They selected stones with sharp edges to scrape bark or crack open bones filled with nutrient-rich marrow. These small innovations mattered. A broken rock could mean the difference between nutrition and starvation. A sharpened stick could offer just enough defense to fend off a smaller predator. A well-chosen stone could help access food no other creature on the savannah could exploit. But even more important than tools was strategy. Hominids learned to observe vultures circling in the sky, a clue that a carcass might be nearby. They followed herds of grazing animals to find water. They used the height of trees to scout for threats. They watched nature closely. They adapted faster than the beasts around them. Their brains slowly enlarged. Their decision-making improved. And although they did not yet understand it, these small advancements were laying the first building blocks of human intelligence. Tools were not miracles. They did not eliminate danger, but they provided an edge, a small, fragile advantage in a world where disadvantages were fatal. The biggest threat to early hominids was not just predators, but extinction. Climate shifts were frequent. Droughts turned once rich grasslands into deserts. Floods reshaped entire regions. Food sources disappeared. Rivers changed course. Herds migrated into dangerous territories. Entire groups of early humans vanished in these cycles. Only the adaptable survived. Every environmental change presented new challenges and new opportunities. Some hominids followed migrating herds. Others moved into forests. Some developed more efficient foraging techniques. Others formed tighter social structures to ensure the survival of their young. These choices shape evolution itself. The hominids who adjusted lived. The ones who did not disappeared. This period of constant pressure forged the earliest sparks of resilience, the instinct to endure, to push forward, to find new ways to overcome adversity. Extinction was not a distant possibility. It was a shadow that followed them everywhere. But with every generation, early humans became more aware, more strategic, more united. And these qualities ensured that despite the odds, our ancestors did not become forgotten fossils. They became the architects of a future species, us. As we look back at life 4.8 million years ago, we see a world of relentless danger, a world where survival was a daily battle, where the night held terrors and the day tested endurance. Yet from this chaos emerged the first steps of a remarkable journey. A journey that led to fire, to language, to civilization, to the world we inhabit today. Our ancestors were not powerful. They were not dominant. They were not even safe. But they were persistent. They were observant. They were united. And most importantly, they adapted. Every breath they fought for, every predator they escaped, every tool they fashioned, became part of the evolutionary story that led to modern humanity. Their struggles shaped our instincts. Their fears shaped our intelligence. Their unity shaped our societies. And though the world today is different, filled with technology, cities, and comforts they could never imagine, the resilience they forged still lies within us. We are here because they refuse to give up. We thrive because they learn to survive. We dream, build, invent, and explore because danger once lurked behind every tree. The story of early humanity is not just ancient history. It is a foundation of who we are. We are the descendants of survivors, the children of fire, the inheritors of a resilience millions of years in the making. And their legacy reminds us, no matter how harsh the world becomes, humanity has always found a way forward.